Recording, so I guess whenever you want to go, we can turn it over to you.
Okay, so we're calling the City of Hermantown Park Board to order for the February 17th meeting. We'll start off with a roll call. Mike Miller, myself, I'm here. Gene? I see Gene Shaw is there, but I don't hear him. Gene, are you muted?
See if I can unmute him here. I just sent him a message. We'll see if that pops through or not.
Okay. Jim?
Here.
Natalie Peterson? Not here.
Hi, Mike. Hi, Mike. Here.
Okay, yeah, I thought you were. Kelly Taskey? Dwight Morrison?
Here.
Jenna Warmuth?
I don't see Jenna yet.
Okay, and Jesse?
Here.
Okay, thanks.
Gene's
So-
here now.
You here, Gene?
I'm here.
Okay, hi. And Kelly's here now, so. Okay, so we start off with, we need to have a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting.
Jim will make a motion to approve the last month's meeting.
Okay, I hear a second.
Second.
Okay, and all in favor?
Aye.
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 Anybody concerned or want to discuss further?
Nope.
Okay, the minutes are approved. Any public discussion? Don't see anybody here.
No, I don't believe so, Mike.
Okay, then we go on to continuing business. The first would be update on community recreation initiative.
Yeah, hi,
All
Natalie Hoff. If maybe I could turn that over to you for a few moments. If you
That
want
sounds
to give
good.
kind of a brief update.
Sure, Eric, thank you. And good evening, everyone. Well, we've had some activity as far as we had a whole group meeting yesterday. And then we sat in the pre-agenda meeting for the city council also yesterday. And giving a brief update, each subgroup gave an update on their particular part of it, and not a lot of activity except for just trying to keep those going. The trails, for instance, we've talked about, we know we need about $7 to $8 million to continue on, and we're looking at different grants. The Fichtner Park is trying to get organized with what they find for their priorities and how the park should be used or could be used. So those are some things that they're exploring. And then the hockey piece has been pretty organized because it had a formal process before. So then the survey was launched, and the survey is due, the deadline is March 1st. So we encourage everyone to get, if you haven't taken the survey yourselves, to make sure you take it, and then also get it on to anyone and everyone you know to make sure we get as much feedback as we can get. The Hermantown Star is going to put an ad tomorrow, getting it out there to all the residents, hopefully to talk about maximizing the participation for that. Right now, as of yesterday, we had 622 responses to that survey. So everyone's anxiously awaiting to see what the results are. The legislature's moving forward. As far as we know, we're hoping to hear something for sure. I think the deadline is May 17th at the very latest, but hopefully we'll know beforehand. There's been some backlog there, and John Mulder talked about that. We talked about the website, microsite that's been launched in regards to this recreational initiative on the Hermantown's city website, and that will be moved more to the forefront. It's kind of buried now, but when we get the survey results, when we really get organized, we will be trying to drive everyone there to gather information. The economic, impact that these initiatives would have on the area is immense. So we want to make sure that we get everyone the knowledge they need to come behind and jump in. And so then we also need, as Natalie Peterson was talking about yesterday too, we need some branding in regards to this recreational initiative. And it's got to be a joint effort between the 3 subcommittees. So we're working on that along with materials that are being prepared for the Duluth St. Louis County Days. And some of those materials will be readily available as we kind of kick off the campaign, so to speak. So that is really what the update is. Does anyone have any questions or comments?
Natalie, I apologize. I don't know, I lost connection for a minute, so I had to reconnect. But as far as the legislative efforts go, we will probably be coming to Park Board at some point for probably a letter of support for the legislative request with the sales tax use. So more to come on that. We kind of that has to get fine tuned a little bit as far as what the exact process is. But at some point, the Park Board will want the Park Board to have a voice in that. So just FYI on that one.
Yep, I think the Park Board and probably the subcommittees could also do something too.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
And I think just a reminder to everybody, if you're not speaking, maybe just to make sure you've got your phone or computer on mute too.
It's off mute now.
Okay. Does anyone have anything they want to add or any questions? All right. If not, thank you. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to pursuing this further and getting those survey results so we can really hit it hard and craft a campaign to go after sales tax and in this campaign.
And
So thank
community
you.
support. Thanks, Natalie.
Absolutely. Yeah. Bye.
Thank you, Natalie. Appreciate it. And actually, Mike, before you take it here again, we did have a new person come in. It looks like Fern151, maybe just for the documentation for tonight. If you just want to identify yourself, that'd be great.
Hello, it's Crystal Holden, Hermantown softball.
Perfect. Thank you. I love your picture.
Oh, thank you. My snowboard there.
I was thinking that's getting pretty serious about COVID. So,
Oh yeah, can never be too careful, right?
yeah. Okay, then coming up would be continuing business on the second topic, update on Morris Thomas Road to King Creek Trail.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. Met and spoke with the city engineer earlier today. They're in the process of wrapping up the plans for this trail segment. This is to remind everybody, this is from Keene Creek Park going up to Morris Thomas Road. Their thoughts are that they're going to have this plan set complete sometime next week for some staff review, and then get that in front of city council here as well for the final approval of those plans, and then have the ability to put that out for bid. The thoughts or the hopes are to award this contract sometime in April. So as soon as we get that spring thaw, we can get this segment going and moving along, with the ultimate goal of this section being complete by June 30th. So that's exciting news, and I think that'll lead in a little bit more to our discussion under new business here as well with Keene Creek Park.
Eric, do me a favor and refresh me on the estimated cost of that and how it's being funded, just so I get it back in my head.
Sure, exactly. This is funded by 2 different sources. One is the remaining park, excuse me, not park dedication, but the grant that we received from the Greater Minnesota Regional Parks and Trails Commission. We have plus or minus, I want to say $120,000 to $140,000 left as part of that grant. The rest of this is coming from park dedication. That's approximately going to be about 170 plus or minus is what we're going to need from that. We do have that money's either currently in the coffers or coming in any moment through work that's being done on those P&R apartments. So we are in a good shape, at least from a park dedication standpoint as well that way.
Okay, thanks, Eric. And are we gonna, you're talking about the plan will be going to the city council. Is the plan gonna come to the park board just so we see it, or there gonna be time for that?
I'll have to look at the timing to see if we can make that work. Worst case scenario, that at least I will get that out to all of you by way of an email and
Okay.
solicit any comments that way as well, if it doesn't work from a regular meeting timeline.
Okay, appreciate it. Anybody else on that topic? Okay, then move on to 4C, update on transportation alternative grant submission.
Unfortunately, this isn't as fun of information to give. We were number 4 of 12 submissions that had been received by that group. They funded the top 3 applications. There was almost $5 million worth of submissions made of these 12 different applications. And like I said, we are number 4. We did a very positive comments from the group, which at least makes me feel good about submitting again next year. That they recognize that this is a portion or part of the city that's really underserved from a sidewalk standpoint, with the ability to connect these trail segments, the ones that were going to be under construction, right now in the spring with this Keene Creek Park, as well as the portion that we're wrapping up right now south of Ingwalls. So I will plan on still submitting this for next year again. At that point, like I said, these 2 trail segments would be complete at that time. So we will truly have this missing portion. And hopefully that will put us over the edge for the funding this next cycle.
This is the second time we've come close, right, Eric?
It is. The first time we came close was on the section between the schools and the Essential Wellness Center to the city center, to government
Right.
center. And then when I applied the next year, I got the total different results from them, that they were not in favor of it. They thought that that area was well served from a sidewalk standpoint. So a lot of the things that they essentially worked against us on that second submission, I don't see that happening on this particular trail section, but every year is a new year. But I'll continue to go after that.
Okay, thanks.
The fact that they only had $900,000 this year, and each group was awarded 300, I would definitely take a chunk out of what we'd have to build for this trail segment. And this trail segment would be almost $1 million. So on the flip side, every little bit helps, but there could conceivably be a gap if we do get that grant in the future. But I am continuing to look at some DNR connector grants that are coming up here in March and April, and going to be looking at those as well. Those are smaller grants, but once again, it's up in the tune of maybe $100,000 or $150,000. So it would definitely help. The city is still working with the developer who owns the property at the south end of this trail segment. We're having discussions with them about obtaining an easement for this trail segment for the future. So that would definitely be helpful in the grant application again, that we'd have at a minimum 2/3 of this trail section identified or secured through easements. So the city's going to continue to work with that developer on that, as well as look at options of potentially for having them take down or potentially build portion of this trail as well, at least on their property. So that's still ongoing.
I wanted to jump back real quick to the Morris Thomas to Keene Creek. in the plan, as you've seen it so far, does it look like the crossing is going to be on the other side of the creek from the intersection of, I forget how to pronounce Ostrom, whatever the road is coming from King Creek.
Yeah, on Okerstrom, and we've looked
Okerstrom,
at
yeah.
that we've looked at that quite a bit. I know that Dwight, you've expressed your concern about the ability to cross at an intersection. We have spoken to St. Louis County as well as to what we're incurring. We have had quite a bit of conversations about the DNR as well as other environmental groups, and they're really stressing to us not to have to cross over that creek. So what that does is that puts the trail just to the east of the creek, which puts it, for lack of better words, a mid-block crossing.
Right.
We have had that discussion with St. Louis County. They said that even the fact that at Okerstrom and Morris Thomas it's uncontrolled from one intersection, that Morris Thomas has the right of way and the free, there's no stop at that point. They said as long as they're utilizing signage, there's very good sight lines, whether it is a mid-block crossing or at that intersection. So at least from a St. Louis County and their traffic standpoint, they're comfortable if we do have to go that mid-block crossing route, that's acceptable to them. I know that's not what you were, looking at, Dwight, but that's what we've been running into from an environmental standpoint.
Hey, thanks for the efforts anyway. I think it's something we should try to get near, but hey, as long as it's uncontrolled, probably doesn't have that much of a critical function then. So appreciate it.
Thanks, Eric. Anything else from anybody before we go on to new business? Okay, moving on to new business then. The first was discussion on King Creek Park.
Yes, this is a tie over a bit from our last meeting. Dwight, you had indicated the want to at least start a discussion on King Creek Park and maybe some ideas as to what this could be in the future, particularly now that we're having this trail section coming through there. To help everyone out, right now King Creek is our most natural, for lack of better words, of the parks that we have. We do have an existing baseball softball field that has not been used in some time, that it still exists, but for the most part, it needs quite a bit of work down there. We've got a large grass turf area that's generally just general recreation. And this has become, for lack of better words, the de facto dog park of Hermantown, at least in the fact that people have a lot of dog walking and off lead use of the trails with their dogs, for better or worse. I mean, we've been hearing some conversations that people are concerned about dogs being off leash and potential safety issues that way. So as part of the trail plan, we are providing basically a concrete pad area that we're going to be able to bring some picnic tables in, bike rack, as well as trash receptacle, kind of similar to what we did over at Stebner Park. And then one thing I'd like to see, and obviously with the input of the group, is the potential for a playground area down there as well. And right now, this is one of our parks that does not have a playground, and that's something that we try to strive for. So I think at that point, I'd like to open it up a bit more to the group. If they have any other thoughts on King Creek Park as it exists today and what they envision this maybe could be in the future.
Jim Sonneson, I agree with you. I think I've seen people down there, especially during COVID, with they'd go out and order out, take takeout, and then go down there and have their meals down there at the one existing picnic table. But if there was more picnic tables, I think it'd be fine too. But another thing is, I think we have to get the backstop fixed on that field, and then maybe weed control on the field, so it's been able to be able to use more often or better, so it's easier or better to use. Because I've talked to people before, and you can diss that, but you kill the weeds on top, but you don't kill the roots, and they just keep on coming up. I think we should think about spraying the infield to kill the weeds.
Yeah, at
Eric,
least help clean. I'm sorry, Natalie?
I'm sorry. I was just gonna, I know we've had like informal discussions with baseball, softball about their committed use to that field. Can you just remind us of those conversations and their intention of using that space if it were, up to code, basically?
Yeah, thank you. In the past, and I was saying in the past, this was about 3 years ago, the softball association, that was a field that was identified for their use under the user agreements. Back, I want to say in 16 and a little bit in 17, they had some sporadic use of that field, not a lot, used it a little bit more as a practice facility. At that point, when Rose Road Field was being constructed and starting to come online, at least softball was of the opinion that since they were going to have 3 fields up at Rose Road, they did not need the field down at Keene Creek any further. At that point, the Baseball Association asked that the Keene Creek field be added to their user agreement as a field for their use. And to my understanding, I don't believe they've really even used it these last few years. Now with the girls' high school softball utilizing Rose Road primarily for their field that they have, it appears that field number 2 is now has a chance to be used more for the Hermantown Youth Baseball Association, which I think even further takes any pressure off of the need to use Keene Creek Park, at least at this point. At least from staff, we will still engage both softball and baseball to find out if they believe they can utilize Keene Creek Park, at least for lack of better words, as a practice facility. But we've not really seen much use on that field, at least in the 5 years that I've been here.
And Eric, I think part of that is just the condition of the field itself. But I think, we have to look at if we make an investment to updating it, do we have kind of a commitment from them to use it? I just want to make sure that we're thoughtful about that. The only other couple of things that we've talked about and we've been approached about is an actual dog park contained space on kind of that open field area, which would hopefully maybe alleviate some of the free running dogs on the actual trails where some folks are either with or without their leashed dogs. So I think that that's worthy of a discussion. I know we've also talked about kind of making that park a little bit of a destination park based on a particular activity, whether that is an actual formal dog park. I know we've talked about the disc golf, some of those types of things, because we definitely have that open field space surrounded by those trails. So I guess I'd like to see us explore, kind of those bigger conversations as well.
Yeah, and that comment about the dog park is a great comment. I was been thinking about that as well. And even the way it exists today, that could be converted quite easily to a fenced dog park. I think there's really just a couple areas that we'd have to fill in the fence with, as well as create basically a controlled entry and exit point for that. So, obviously we want to have the conversations first with the user groups if they foresee that the use of that field. And if not so, then maybe we pivot over towards a dog park as a something that we could accomplish pretty easily and not a lot of use of funds. And then likewise, disc golf is probably one of the cheaper things that we could do as a community, not having to do a lot of investment because a lot of the space is already there. We've got some of the number of trails that can be utilized as well as that open turf area. So there's some really good potential for those two type of uses.
I can kind of chime in on softball here. It's Crystal. Hi. So I know there have been teams that use that for practice space. And I know baseball, I don't know, we had talked about that quite a bit on, what our usage amount will be moving forward because of baseball also getting to use it. So I can bring that up at the next board meeting. I'm on the youth softball board, so I can find out, where people are at with that. And I guess we didn't know, it sounded to us like baseball was going to have access to that too. So yeah, I guess everyone maybe getting on the same page is probably a really good idea as far as that. And you're right, as far as one reason it doesn't get utilized is that field it's in pretty bad shape. So that's kind of a factor too. So, I mean, we do have a pitching machine and stuff in there, and we've had practices there in the past, but that's, I guess, where we're at with it.
And Eric, I think too, even on top of whatever's decided with the baseball/softball field, we do have that big open field space adjacent to that. And I think, we have opportunities for some of the activities that we've discussed, of using that big open field space there, which would be fun to make. I just would love to create a destination activity that brings people there, not only just for the trails, but other things. I know the disc, and not that I'm leaning on the disc golf, but I know up at Inger, they have the disc golf happening, and I know it's pretty popular, pretty active. So I think just thinking of things like that, we definitely have some space to play with. And it's just a matter of what makes the most sense. So.
So it sounds like.
Thanks for
sounds
the
like-
discussion. Can I throw in a couple of comments?
Sure.
What motivated me, by the way, was you've got a trail now that's going to be in another year leading down there, and I don't want it to be a trail to nowhere. What bothered me, I guess, a lot was the lack of a trailhead type facility. In other words, bathrooms and things like that. And I thought much about it, and what I came out with from, I don't know whether you've seen over in Cloquet, in the winter facilities there, they've got a covered area that covers 2 porta potties and a vending machine. I thought it was kind of a neat solution to a trailhead without involving a lot of running water and things like that in the wintertime. But anyway, just getting the ideas going and the thought process going of what we can do with it is really good. I like it. I'm a little biased because about 20 years ago, probably longer than that, I was involved with the development of the trails there. And so with UMD had some really interesting times. It's a beautiful area. The dog parks idea sounds really neat, but the whole area needs work, and just some thoughts about it. Maybe a question. We're talking about rebuilding that park fund in about a year and a half. And so maybe that's where some of this can come from too. Is that possible, Eric?
It is possible. And I'm going to be kind of curious. I don't want to curse myself here. Lately, some projects we've been getting some really good bids on. So hopefully that will continue as this trail system goes out for process here as well. And we'll see. It's, some numbers coming in. Maybe, like I said, monies at least are been earmarked or budgeted for that. Perhaps there could be looking at something like a covered structure or something like that. We'll just have to see how, this project is bid out at, and to see if any monies are, at least available from that. And then obviously moving forward too, there's 2 or 3 projects that that are in the pipeline that can be very good generators for park dedication dollars. So I see some good things on the horizon that way.
I have a question about, wasn't it about 4 or 5 months ago that Natalie or Eric discussed the city was going to start putting in $100,000 a year into the park dedication fund? Whatever became of that?
Yes, that is true, Jim. As part of our financial management plan, I believe that's starting in 2022 is when we're going to be doing that. I will verify that number when I speak to Kevin Orm, our finance director here again. And just at the next meeting, I will provide additional information for that.
Well, I didn't realize it was that far out that that was going to start to happen.
Yeah, I'll get verification for that, Jim, on the exact date and the exact number as well. But I mean, those were numbers that that have been discussed in the past here.
Eric, was that estimation of what we are going to be getting from our normal process of park dedication funds, or was this going to be an extra $100,000 that the city was going to throw in from its regular funds?
It was my understanding that this was going to be additional funds on top of park dedication fees,
Okay,
but I will verify that as well.
thanks. Anything else on King Creek? So
I
in
guess
a park,
my motivation was to get the city to maybe start to look at what are these alternatives and you know, start to flesh it out a little bit. That's for sure. It looks like it's a year or 2 years in advance, but hey, it's a beautiful area, has some real potential. Thanks.
yep, sounds good. I have one.
Mike,
Yes,
oh,
go ahead, Natalie.
I'm sorry, I don't know if you were going to speak, but I know Jesse's on the phone. I think Kelly's on the phone. I'm trying to remember what other members, if I'm missing anybody. Jean,
And Jim, yeah.
yeah, and Jim. But just if anybody else that hasn't spoken yet has ideas and or just thoughts, I think, you know, there's no bad idea right now. So, I mean, based on what you think would work, things you've seen, I think, you know, let's really start brainstorming. And then to Dwight's point, we can really start putting maybe some numbers to some of these ideas and understanding what our cost is. If our space allows, you know, these types of ideas, you know, what it's going to entail for us to fix up that backstop and some of those pieces for the other use. So I'd be curious as what other people think for ideas.
All right, I had a couple thoughts. If I could just have anything that I wanted, I think it would be great to have a large playground. I think a lot of the playgrounds that the city has, besides at the school, are kind of small. It's a little bit of just like I'll throw you a bone, here's a playground. So having something bigger that would appeal to kids of all ages would be really cool. I don't have a dog right now, but I think a dog park would be nice to get the dogs sort of maybe off the trails, not entirely, but to reduce the amount of dogs that are on the trails and the mess that they make. And I think it would be really cool to have a disc golf course. I know it's super popular. I used to play a long time ago, but it's been a long time. But I think that would be a fun thing to add back there too, because there's a lot of different topography, and I think it could work.
Awesome. Thanks, Kelly. Jesse, I'm going to put you on the spot.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
All right. I guess I like all the ideas. I guess the only thing that scares me about, all the ideas, and I guess the reason I'm just, I want a dog park. I like the disc golf. I like all that. Is this park is kind of out of sight, out of mind. Off the main road, you go by Fichtner Park. It's in the middle of the city. There's cars driving by every day. It's busy. Where this Keene Creek is kind of tucked back in the woods. And what scares me is you're going to entice things to get back there. So my biggest concern, my biggest question is, who's going to really monitor all this stuff if we go ahead and do a disc golf, we go ahead and do a dog park? Because right now everybody talks about how there's no significant, dog park area. So where do these dogs all create their business? It's back there and nobody's back there. So that's my biggest concern is I like the disc golf. I think, like Kelly said, I like the playground. I don't think there is a playground, especially on that side of the town or the city. And I guess I'm just looking at the big picture and I want to throw it out there to everybody. Are we going to start having cameras placed back there and everything? Because it is tucked back in the woods. And that's just my biggest concern. I'll leave it at that.
Well, that's a good point, Jesse, because this is Crystal again. Hi. We did have a pitching machine stolen out of that building that it was a couple of years ago. I think it was 2, maybe 3 seasons ago. So, just there's that too.
And I think, Jesse, to your point, I think the park has definitely gained more traction as word spreading about the trails that are back there, especially through this last year with people trying to find outdoor space. But we also have to remember with our trail that way, that's definitely going to change a lot of the course of the activity and the connectability to that space as well. But your point is taken that is kind of a point that we've made, that, more activity back there is better than no activity, because when you've got no activity, it draws, bad activity basically coming in. So having, folks down there using the park, whether it's for trails or baseball practice, softball practice, disc golf, whatever ends up being there, along with the trail heading that way, is a great thing to have more people out and about. But that we certainly need to have a discussion, and we've even talked about this in the past, about the backside of Stebner Park, which isn't as visible, right, from the road, of just be mindful from a safety security standpoint. So what does that look like?
Great. And
And
that's
also-
just my biggest thing. I'm glad you guys have looked at that and are because I agree with you. I think the more activities you get back there, the more traffic you're going to have, and the better the situation, the outcome could be. So I appreciate it. Thanks.
I agree, yes.
Just to comment on the idea of a larger recreation or playground area back there. There was some discussion the other day with the Fichtner Park group about the idea of a destination recreation or playground area. And they had some examples of larger areas, but we agreed, Eric talked about it, that there's probably not enough room at Fichtner for a really nice destination recreation type park. So that I had suggested at the time that if we were going to think about something like that, we might think about Stebner as a possibility, because there is room, a possibility of room in Stebner, and the other would be here. So I like, Kelly, the idea of the possibility that would be the spot to put it, because we still have room out there to put something like that. And there are some neat designs that was shared by Kent in the Recreation Initiative group. Just to share that aspect.
Yeah, that's a good point, Mike. How about Jean? Jean, do you have any thoughts or feedback?
He might be muted. He's got the mute signs there.
Yeah, I just looked. Jean, if you're listening and able to unmute yourself and want to share something, I just want to make sure we're hearing from everybody, but no, he's ignoring us. So go ahead, Mike. Well, I guess my question is too, like, Eric, you're clearly grabbing, some notes, but I think, starting to put some parameters, some more detail around some of these ideas, having a discussion with the baseball, softball group, understanding their commitment and need for the use of that field. Because that, is that staying? Is it going? What, I think just understanding that, but understanding we have a lot of space surrounding that as well. I know the dog park is the group, I've been approached on the city council side multiple times about a dog park. And we do have an issue with, free dogs running, and that definitely having a contained space, I think, would be a solution for that to a point. But not that that's what we have to be going with. But I think we have some great options that wouldn't be very costly, to be able to start putting some pieces together on that and understanding what could work, what would work, and what would that cost look like.
Gene, I see that you're able to unmute.
I think so.
Did you want to add something to this conversation, Gene?
Well, I think sometime too, we were talking about how some of these trails are going to hook up with the skyline. Is that still?
Yes, that is the ultimate goal of this trail system, is to get down into Duluth and Proctor and Duluth. That is correct.
Okay. And then is that going to be walking or biking or?
Yeah, it'd be the same thing. It'd be a 10-foot wide paved trail. Obviously, the accessibility becomes a little bit more difficult as we're getting down that hill, but but yes, it's a paved surface.
So it would be both, Gene.
Yeah. And then the other thing is, there was always that discussion about that property that's up on, by Bangs Road, up the top of the hill there on the backside of the high school.
Mhm.
Not the
Oh, off
Olson
of Lindahl.
property? Is that
Off
the
of
Olson?
Lindahl.
Pardon?
I think that's the Olson property you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was one where we're going to have baseball up there or whatever one time, and that's kind of died down. So that property is still up there, right? To be developed for something, maybe.
Yes,
Yes,
that's correct.
Gene.
That's 40 acres of undeveloped land that we have there.
Where is this close to King Creek, or I'm lost where we're at now?
North, I think.
Yeah, this
It's
is
behind yeah, I'm sorry, we're all trying to talk. It's behind the school, kind of is that off of Lindahl, Eric?
It is. It's off
Yes.
of Lindahl and north of Arrowhead.
Okay, I just wasn't sure of the connection to King Creek. That's right. Okay, is that a wrap on the King Creek? You have something else, Natalie, you want to hear from?
No, I think Gene was just talking about some of the, I'm putting pieces together and guessing that Steve or Gene was meaning that we do have opportunities with that space as well, with some of the things that we are talking about as well.
Sure.
I think Gene, maybe that's where he was kind of going with it, that we also have this other additional space. The only thing is it is wooded, it's not cleared, it's not some of those things, but that doesn't mean that things can't be done with it.
Correct.
Right. Another thing, just out of curiosity, when I sat in on the Fichtner Field subcommittee group, I know, at least for me, I didn't hear any talk about what we might think about for the old football field there. And I don't know whether I've missed a conversation that's covered that or not. And I'm wondering where that is in the RCS effort.
So Gene, Gene, Mike,
Yes.
we talked initially about that space. Knowing that it's there and it has to be a part of the conversation. But I think up to this point, we just kind of are starting on like sections and pieces. So it just, that portion hasn't really come into the discussion yet, because it's been a focus more on the passive side of Fichtner with the pavilion, and then the field spaces and the basketball courts and that kind of stuff. And that is going to be a part of the discussion though, but we're kind of not quite there yet with that space.
Well, will that be part of the discussion in the RCI initiative, or is it going to be sometime later? We just need to pick it up in the city discussions and park board discussions.
It will be a part of this discussion, because I think it logically has to be, because of the location to
Right.
Fichtner and the space that's available, especially when we're identifying needs. So it will be, whatever ends up in the final, Mike, I don't know what that will look like, but I know
Sure.
it will be a part of the discussion. And
Okay,
Eric, I don't know if you have anything to add.
The reason I wondered was just from the idea of a destination playground area that does offer space, although it's a bit of ways away from the fields. I don't know whether it'd work, but just another spot that maybe something like that could occur.
Totally. I
Yep.
agree.
Okay,
That-
thanks.
That's also the, is soccer out of the picture now on that section, Eric?
I believe it's used more for captain's practices in the fall and for some more like pickup soccer games activities. But as far
And
as,
Eric,
I'm sorry, Natalie?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I agree with that. I think, you know, the turf on the football field has changed the landscape a little bit with some of those sports for their use, that they're kind of gravitating more towards those spaces if they're available. And then they also, as part of the turf, fixed up the practice football fields over there as well next to the school. But to Eric's point, I think it's more of a captain's practice, more of an informal use on that space. And then we get to the point where the geese kind of take over on that field a little bit as well. So that's what I've seen in that space. But Eric, I don't know if you've got anything additional.
No, the geese do use it quite a bit. I guess regardless, if there is some more of a, I won't say formal, but program type of use, I mean, soils are a big issue over in that portion there as well. That, like I said, if that was ever converted to additional baseball fields or whatever, that we'd have to look at the soils over there also.
Okay. And any more discussion on the new business? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to communications. There was a topic of correspondence from Ben, and I can't pronounce the last name. Sonecki, or how you pronounce it. You must be going to cover that, Eric.
Yes, that was, this gentleman had reached out to staff as well as council members, and you can see the letter to Mayor Boucher here. These are some residents on Sunnyview Road. There's 2 parcels of land that are currently for sale on Maple Grove Road on the south side. And they were inquiring about the city's ability to purchase some of that property to utilize for park space, more for open space, cross-country skiing, snowshoeing, etc. I did inform this gentleman of this Art Olson Park as, you know, undeveloped land that the city has, as well as the things that Keene Creek has to offer as far as some of these trail systems and cross-country, that the city already had these things. But at least at this point, you know, they don't believe there's an appetite for the city to purchase any more property for parkland when we already have undeveloped pieces in our inventory.
So I think at this point, it's just making you aware of the request, and, you know, if anybody has questions or concerns or feedback on that, you know, to let us know.
Okay.
Here's one thing.
Is that, Eric?
Jim Sonneson, I have one thing about Fichtner Field that probably we never brought up about the initiative, and that is parking. If I've been at the Fichtner Field for baseball games, and parking is becoming a big issue. A lot of times when the fields are changing from teams to teams, they're parked out on the Maple Grove Road. So that's something to think about in the future too, of where can we get more parking?
Jim, I agree with you. I've seen that too, which becomes a safety issue with cars going 50 miles an hour on that Maple Grove Road.
Yep.
And I think, you know, we've definitely got an issue to discuss about that. We also have that whole gravel area, you know, on the back side of those other fields, 3, 4, whatever they are, over there, and like to be headed towards the pavilion, that are gravel, that at some point we may want to look at maybe paving those and having dedicated spaces so that it's being utilized better with more spots as well. But we're going to have a discussion about that as an issue. And not only that, but you've also got lots of bodies running around between field spaces there, with little kids, obviously. And I just always worry about that with so much traffic winding in and out over there. So
Is there a
we're gonna have to be
possibility,
thoughtful.
is there a possibility we could talk to the county to slow during the summertime, or to have them slow that, like from the old fire hall all the way down, the speed limit down in that area?
Jim, I wish I could tell you that was an easy thing to do, but it's not.
Okay.
We've approached that with other spaces as well. Changing that, and Eric, you can add in on this, but is much harder than what you think it is. We've looked at it on other roads and we've gotten several requests on that. It's not easy to get that updated or changed.
I guess I have a question.
Sorry, that doesn't mean
Sorry.
we can't look at, maybe is there more signage that we need, or because definitely I think people, when it's 50, they're going 55 or maybe even 60, on that road at times. So we could talk about, and talk even with the chief about if there's, the flashing digital signs that we could use there or something. So that doesn't mean we can't do something more with some signage, Jim, too.
But yeah,
I guess the question I have to kind of piggyback off of this, when you're talking about Fichtner Park, and I don't know who owns it, I don't know how it ties in, but you have a huge chunk of property which I feel gets underutilized in that old football field right across the bridge. I feel like when you talk about parking, you have that big bowl, like you say, where the kids play soccer. But then you have the whole back end closest to that house to the north, where the old stands used to be, where virtually you could turn all that into parking and make a big parking lot there if that was ever to be tied in. And I don't know where the initiative is with Fichtner Park because I'm not on that committee. But I feel like if you were to clean up that wetland area in between the park and that field, you could redo that bridge and really make that an attractable part of Fichtner Park to be utilized more than it is now.
Yeah, that was where Natalie said the discussion on the use of that old football field area and is going to have to end up being a part of the discussion and the recreation initiative, and so that will be brought up before that's done.
And part of it,
I think Jesse's got a good idea there too, because like when you go up to Brown Park and their big baseball complex there, you don't park very close to the fields. You park away and then walk to the fields. It's not like you have to park right next to the baseball fields.
Yeah, you bet. We'll be sure, and at least I will be sure that we bring it up with the Fichtner Park discussion, and Natalie's aware that it needs to be done also, so it'll come up.
yeah, and part of it will be is working with the user groups as well, because we even discovered that at Rose Road initially, once we even paved and defined that parking lot, we were still getting a lot of people parking on the road just because it was close to the field. So it's working with the user groups also, and to if we do create more parking, just so they can continue to let their players and families know about these other options for parking also.
Okay. Any more comments on the communications or new business? Kind of mixing them. Okay, from there, just any board member reports, and I do not have one. Gene,
Nope.
Jim?
I just gave mine here a little while ago, so no, I don't.
Natalie?
No, nothing that we haven't discussed, Mike. Thank you.
Okay, Kelly? Yeah, she's listening, so
No,
she said,
I'm good.
she nodded no. Dwight?
My only comment would be that security down at the Keens Creek is probably a big issue and something that I think needs to be considered as part of the package. Just a comment.
May I jump in there, Mike?
Yeah, I was gonna call you, so go ahead.
That has been a problem with Kings Creek for the last 25 years that I've been in this community. The police department at one time was going down there maybe 4 or 5 times a day, and still people that shouldn't be there doing whatever they're doing there are there. So it's out of sight, and that's just where people go. The only way you could do it is you put a gate up there that they had to put a buck in to get it to open. That still wouldn't stop them.
Yeah, it sounds like it does need to be a part of the consideration for sure. Okay,
One of the comments I had was lighting maybe was part of the issue down there too, but you don't know whether it is or not until it happens. So thank you.
you bet. Okay, with that, if there's no other comments, need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Good
Well,
job, Gene.
I'm sorry. I have just to check in quick about just the little things at the softball field. I'm sorry, I was dealing with children there for a moment.
Sure, go ahead, Crystal.
Okay. So I'm just looking at John Nixitch's list here, and just checking in about dugouts with the roofs. It sounded like that was something that was going to be happening. It says, well, after the first of the year. I understand there's snow. We're just trying to keep it on the radar here. So whatever the plans are with putting roofs on those dugouts on the new field. And then also on field 3, there's no bleachers. And it sounded like the bleachers from the old football field, those little bleachers that are there, were going to be moved over there at some point. So I'm checking in about that. And then, you know, the grass issue for that new field.
Yeah, Crystal, Eric Johnson. So yes, I've been working with Paul Senst. We always work with fence contractors at the beginning of each season on issues. And that is one thing, is they're going to be installing basically that, I believe it's the chain link fencing over the top, and then being able to have a shade structure sort of thing on top of that, is my understanding.
Great. Okay,
yes,
cool.
we are going to be Yep, we're bringing
go ahead, I'm
bleachers
sorry.
over there as well. And then, except the turf, we're just, get the snow melt going, still working with the contractor under warranty issues for that. So we're
Perfect.
keep moving along on those things.
Eric,
Awesome. Well, that was
does that sound like the turf probably will not be ready for this spring? If it's got problems now, I would think not.
It's I want to say we probably have 65 to 70% plus of all the grasses come in. It's not like there's large open bare spaces. It's like more sporadic. So at this point, I believe last season that we were allowing use of that field, and anticipate that we would still allow that this year. So it wouldn't be out of service again this season.
Okay, good. Thanks, Crystal.
Thank you.
Thank
You
you.
bet. Okay, back to, I heard somebody make a motion to adjourn, but I didn't hear who it was.
I believe it was
Second it.
Gene.
I'd second that. We're ready to go.
Okay, with that, everybody in favor, aye?
I
Or wait,
Bye.
did somebody yell something?
No, that was somebody's kid.
Okay. I was just yelling stop. All right, we're gonna adjourn. Thank you.
All right,
Great, thanks
bye.
everyone. Great meeting. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody.
We'll see ya.
Yep.